Mr. Speaker, it is with great humility that I rise today for my first speech in the House of Commons. I would like to use this opportunity to thank my constituents of Kapuskasing, Timmins, Mushkegowuk for electing me to represent them here. I am honored to have earned their trust and to serve as their voice in our nation's parliament. I would also like to thank my team for their dedication throughout my campaign and my family for their unwavering support in this new chapter. The riding is a vast and diverse region, rich in natural resources, strong cultural heritage, and resilient communities, and I am committed to ensuring their voices are heard and their priorities are upheld. Monsieur le Président, c'est avec une
Mr. Speaker, it is with great humility that I rise today to deliver my first speech in the House of Commons. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the residents of Kapuskasing, Timmins, Mushkegowuk for electing me as their Member of Parliament. I'm honored to have earned their trust and to be their voice in our nation's Parliament. I would also like to thank my team for the dedication throughout my campaign, as well as my family, for their support in this new chapter. This riding is a diverse region, rich in natural resources, strong cultural heritage, and resilient communities. I'm committed to advocating for their interests and reflecting their values in my work.
Last Liberal decade, our economy has experienced the worst economic growth in the G7. We've become more dependent on the United States, and the buying power of our workers' paycheck has declined because of Liberals' laws have blocked resource development. Despite having the most resource per capita of any country on earth, we continue to fall short of our economic potential. The recent tariffs from the United States have turned this problem into a full-fledged crisis, one that underscores the urgent need to rebuild economic priority for all Canadians. The Prime Minister has recently introduced Bill C-5. A very small number of interprovincial barriers will be eliminated by this bill, which is better than nothing, but tens of billions of dollars of obstacles at the provincial level remain untouched. In my professional experience as a forestry executive and through my 45 years of work in the forestry and mining sectors across northeastern Ontario, I've seen firsthand that barriers that stand in the way of productivity, investment, and opportunity. Bill C-5, in its current form, fails to meaningfully eliminate such barriers. It is not the economic breakthrough this Liberal government wants Canadians to believe it is. Rather, it is a minor baby step and a missed opportunity to reach independence and self-reliance. Le projet de loi C-5 ne corrige pas.
This bill, Bill C-5, does not actually address the structural issues that are holding back Canada's economic development. While this bill does not propose anything that slows down free trade or infrastructure projects, it lacks a concrete vision for adapting to our current situation.
In at home, Bill C-5 is split into two parts. The first part is the free trade and labour exchange across Canada. The second part being projects that are deemed to be in national interest, which will have their approval process streamlined by reporting to one point contact. This includes provisions for the federal government to determine whether a major project is in the national interest based on consultation with provinces, territories, and Indigenous people. Pour ceux qui écoutent à la maison, le projet.
For those listening in at home, Bill C-5 is divided into two parts. The first part deals with legislation that regulates free trade and labour mobility in Canada. The second part deals with legislation to build Canada, providing that projects deemed to be of national interest will benefit from a streamlined approval process and a single point of contact. This part includes provisions allowing the federal government to determine whether a major project is of national interest after consulting with the provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples.
Despite its ambition, Bill C-5 falls incredibly short of delivering true free trade and getting major projects built quickly. There are simply too many fault points in Bill C-5 for us to accept the bill in its current state. Le projet de loi C-5 ne présente aucun échéancier.
Bill C-5 does not set out a concrete timeline, does not provide a public list of priority projects, and lacks clarity. These essential aspects are, however, indispensable, would allow us to have an assurance of speed, accountability, and public confidence in the process. Without these safeguards, the bill can't meet its objectives nor the expectations of Canadians.
Laws are barriers to development, and this bill is an admission to that. There is a way to fast-track unleashing Canadian resources. That is to remove the liberal anti-development laws that block projects in first place, like C-69, C-48, the oil and gas cap, and the industrial carbon tax. Ce projet de loi, comme plusieurs lois,
This bill, like many of the Liberal government's laws, reflects a limited approach and confirms that there are restrictive laws in place reducing our necessary economic growth.
28 projects in nuclear, uranium, mining projects, oil and gas, hydro, roads to unlock, critical minerals, stuck in federal review. Those are real projects with real proponents. By his own argument, the obvious place to start, which wouldn't even require legislation, would be to fast-track those assessment and approvals. Look at what is already being done south of the border in the United States. They approve major energy projects such as ours, oil, gas, critical minerals, uranium, on federal lands in as few as 28 days. You, the Liberals, now promise a 2-year timeline, where Conservatives propose a 1-year conservative wait time, I should say a maximum wait time, for approvals, with a target of 6 months for project of national importance, to uphold the duty to consult also and actually get projects built. The Liberal government need to get with the times if they really want to make Canada truly self-reliant and competitive with the US. We need to actually compete. The world is becoming only more chaotic and fast-paced. We need realistic times to deliver our projects, or we risk staying left behind. Canada has what the world needs. We need to give it to them when they need it. Le Premier ministre affirme que nous...
The Prime Minister claims that this is an exceptional crisis. If this is true, why accept a 2-year delay? In a real crisis, leadership requires urgency. 2 years is simply too long, and Canada is dependent and vulnerable to the United States. This proposal will continue to hold Canada back and leave its resources unused in the ground.
Canada to compete and to achieve true economic and energy security. That means shovel-ready economic zones, scrap the cap on Canadian oil and gas. Canadians need affordable, reliable power and fuel so Canada can be self-reliant and achieve real economic independence from the United States. The way we handle our resources lays the ground for the future of our country. A country that is self-reliant, independent, restoring the Canadian promise of anyone who works hard gets a good life in our great Canada. Thank you.
Member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations to the member across the way on his maiden speech to the House. You know, I'm taking a look at Bill C-5, and I've had the opportunity to ask this question of members' colleagues in the Conservative caucus, and I've yet to hear, and we appreciate the fact that you're supporting the legislation, and we're going to see it pass on Friday, but are there anything specific? I've yet to hear anything from the Conservatives saying, here is an amendment that we believe would make a difference. does the member have any sort of a change he would like to see to the legislation itself?
The honourable member for Kapuskasing Timmins Mushkegowik.
Well, as I mentioned, there are 28 projects right now in nuclear, uranium, mining projects, oil and gas, hydro, and roads, critical minerals, and they're stuck in the process. And these would be the great ones to start with, and the laws would not need to be changed.
Questions and comments. Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, I would like to know, and if the member could explain, the bill as it is formulated at the moment could allow, for instance, the federal government to consult Quebec, and Quebec says, no, we do not want a pipeline here. And there's absolutely nothing in the bill that shows that it would take consensus or approval of Quebec before a pipeline can be constructed. I'd like to know if the member is aware of this reality and if he agrees that the provinces should have the last say on these projects.
Bien, moi, tous les jours, j'écoute.
Well, I listen to the news every day, Radio-Canada. And what I hear from the population in Quebec and their premier is that they are open to negotiations on a pipeline.
Member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
I would like to congratulate the member for his first speech in the House. He said he worked in the forestry sector. So what measures can we take to support the forestry sector in Canada as part of Bill C-5 or as part of other initiatives here at the House? The Honourable Member for Kapuskasing Timmins Mushkegowik. What we need to be mindful of is that the forestry industry, we are the leaders in it.
That are still going on after 45 years. I've seen sawmills in every single province, pulp and paper mills. In Ontario, where I worked, there was 21 pulp and paper mills when I started. There's 3 left. Wow. Let's make sure this doesn't happen to the rest of our industries. It is easier to fix than to rebuild. It will take us 20 years to rebuild the forest industry. And we have the huge forest, healthy forests, and we will need to process them. If not, they will burn down.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to congratulate my colleague on his speech this evening. I have a very simple question. This is a very complex piece of legislation. I understand that the Conservatives will be voting with the Liberals to support it. What I don't understand is why, with such a complex piece of legislation, the Conservatives voted with the Liberals to prevent the Prime Minister from coming and testifying at committee. They had an opportunity to have the Prime Minister come and explain why this omnibus bill needed to be rushed through so quickly, why this omnibus bill wasn't...
Point of order, the honourable member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe after we've taken a vote on a matter, it is appropriate for a member to refer to the comings and goings of the Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On the same point, I understand where the member's coming from, but the honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona on the same point, or can we move on to on the same point?
The standing orders clearly indicate we are not able to indicate how a member voted. However, we are able to discuss how parties voted. That is within the standing orders. So I would like...
I think we can move on. If
why the Conservatives voted to not bring Mark Carney to committee.
Order. Okay. I know where the member's coming from. We can't use proper names either, but let's move on. We'll allow the member an opportunity to respond to the question. The honourable member for Kapuskasing Timmins Mushkegowik.
Could the question be repeated?
In 10 seconds or less, the honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Conservative Party of Canada vote with the Liberal Party of Canada to prevent the Prime Minister from coming to committee to explain why he's brought forward this piece of legislation.
Member for Timmins Kapuskasing Mushkegowik.
It happens.